Let's talk about Philadelphia's baseball club.
Let's do it. I'm excited. I'm so excited because you know what, Brig? I wanted this team to do well all season long. I had them winning the division in our meaningless predictions before the season started.
Yeah.
But I did not, as the season progressed, I did not have them getting this far, and I'm actually like so happy for the Phillies and Phillies fans, to be honest with you. So let's get into the tail of the tape. Let's talk about the Phillies first. So their overall record: 87-75, 47-34 at home, 40-41 on the road. Could be a problem going down to Houston. We'll see. 9-inning games, they are 77-69. You might be saying, Brad, every game's 9 innings. No, they're not. 8-6 in extras, and 2-0 in shortened games, which will not come into play in the World Series. That will not happen. So Astros fans, don't worry about that. But one-run games, this is a problem. 22-25. I blame that on the bullpen. And then blowouts, though, that's games where it's separated by 5+ runs. 5+ runs, anyway, 26-22. So if they get a lead, a big lead, they're likely to hold it unless it's against the Mets. As we saw. Oh, there's that. But it happens. As a Mariners fan, I can't talk. So
yeah, well.
Anyway,
as a Yankees fan, sometimes all I know how to do is talk. So I guess
there you go. There you go. So let's talk about how they got here too. Okay. So the Phillies started off up here in the upper right-hand corner. They played against the Cardinals in the wild card round. And we did not have them beating the Cardinals. Like flat out had the Cardinals winning that series. The Phillies won that one 2-0. Then they went on to the Braves. Again, we had the Braves winning, but they made quick work of the Braves. Won that one 3-1. And then they go to the Padres, and it's like, I don't even know what's going to happen here. They beat the Padres 4-1. So the big takeaway I want people to remember going into this series is that the Phillies are undefeated so far in the postseason. And that's all it takes for them to lose their first home game in this series.
Are they really undefeated in the postseason?
At home.
Oh, okay. Yep. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, at home they are. Right.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's like being due in reverse, right?
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, they're due to lose at home. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. Like I still don't feel like home field advantage is like necessarily a huge thing in baseball. But we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe the Phillies are just like monsters at home, right?
That's what their record showed.
Yeah. Well, and their season record too. 47-34. That's a good record. To have 87 wins and lose and be under 500 on the road, I feel like says something about how good you are at home. So
yeah, at home. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there could be problems in Houston.
It's true.
But the Phillies as a franchise, this is their 8th World Series appearance as a franchise. They have 2 World Series titles. Their last appearance was in 2009. Their last win was 2008. And the thing that's interesting, Brig, is that our friends Jason and Tori, who do the Philly Baseball Together podcast, talking to them over text and listening to their podcast this season, they've drawn a lot of similarities between the 2008 season and this season.
Tons, all the time.
Yeah, like there's all kinds of stuff that happens. They're like, oh, that feels like 2008. That reminds me of 2008 of the 2008 season. It's like, oh, crazy.
Yeah,
right.
Especially the record through so far. Like I always remember they were saying, okay, it's been this many games and we're at this record, and that means that was like 2008. It's fascinating. And then all the stuff going around about economic decline after the Phillies win anything. I thought that was really interesting.
That was funny.
Well, I don't know if it's true, but so they finished the season, their last 10 games of the season, they kind of limped into the playoffs, as we've said. They went 4-6 their last 10. They lost series to the Cubs, which swept them, by the way, and then they lost to the Astros. And then they won 3 out of 4 against the Nationals. So,
which everybody should win 3 out of 4 against the Nationals.
Yeah, if not year. 4 out of 4. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So real. I thought that was interesting seeing that, like how poorly they were. And I think that we saw that too. We were kind of like, okay, because, we obviously were paying attention to how teams were doing down the stretch, and we saw that the Phillies were struggling. And I think that was a big part of the reason we didn't have them beating the Cardinals. Definitely didn't have them beating the Braves, because the Braves have been on fire since like June.
Yeah.
July, right? So I feel like that's why we were both so surprised that the Phillies were able to beat the Braves. But now all of a sudden they've flipped a switch. Like,
Something
yeah,
happened. And I know
I
that
don't know.
Bryce Harper is in fine form. Kyle Schwarber's doing his postseason thing. So it's
Reese Hoskins is hitting his timely home runs like we talked about on Monday.
Reese Hoskins.
But it's crazy because we talked about like Jewel and I kept talking about like, oh, here comes October Julio, here comes October Mitch. Oh, there's September Mitch right there. Talking
Yeah.
about Mitch Haniger because in September he's swinging at everything breaking and off the plate. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's September Mitch right there. Like
Yeah.
October Bryce Harper is a thing. October
It's a
Kyle Schwarber is a thing.
it's a huge thing. And we're going to see it because they're going to come ready to play with all that experience that they have in the postseason. And, there's a big debate as to whether or not postseason experience matters, how much of an X factor that is as far as the player's performance, the club's performance as a whole, that veteran impact in the clubhouse, especially with the younger guys. I think it's real. I do. I don't think it's the deal breaker that some people, I don't think it deserves all of the weight that some people give
Right.
it, but I think it's a factor.
I think understanding the rhythm of the postseason is what helps you. Like there is something to be said for having a certain level of ignorance when it comes to playing big games.
Yeah.
Like I'll never forget. So we were playing for the regional title when I was 16. This was summer ball. We were going. If we won our next game, we would go to the World Series.
Right.
And my buddy and I were just sitting around, like dinking around in the dugout. And this guy, the captain, he was the self-declared captain, comes over. He's like, "You guys nervous for this game?" We're like, "No." He's like, "This is the biggest game you've ever played in your life." I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna
Cool
treat it like
story,
another
bro.
game until it's not."
Yeah.
Like, okay, and it was literally the biggest game I had ever played in my entire life. I had never had a chance to be one game away from going to the World Series, but like going in, I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel like. Should I be
Totally.
nervous? Should I be excited? Or should I just be like level? So I feel like there was a certain level of ignorance that kind of helped. I don't know, kind of helped keep some of us level for that game. We did end up losing, but maybe we weren't amped up enough. I don't know, Brig. I don't know.
I don't know either. I wasn't there. It was a good story. Liked it.
So, but anyway, so yeah, I do think, like I said, more of a rhythm of the postseason, being able to understand like how to prep yourself with extended pregame festivities,
All the
kind of a
media.
different schedule, all the media stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that is helpful as far as the difference with the veterans. So
Well, and I think that even media breaks in between innings in the games are a little longer. It's going to throw things off just a little bit for warm-ups and stuff like that. So
yeah, it
maybe you're
could.
right.
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
last thing on that. So I remember in 2012, Russell Wilson went to the Super Bowl because
Yeah.
he wanted to feel what he wanted to understand the rhythm of it, like the flow of the game, pregame, the extended halftime, and everything. And then the next year, the Seahawks went and won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
because he
true.
said that he felt like that helped. So I don't know.
That's cool.
Something to think about. Anyway, let's get into some statisticals, Brig.
Yes.
The Phillies this year. I love this. First, real quick, we've got Derpy 501st. Real quick, Derpy 501st. Is that like the 501st from Clone Wars? Answer me that. He says,
Ooh.
"Let's be real, fellas. We want Philly to win." Probably. I mean,
I do.
I don't cheer for division rivals. So there's that.
Yeah. I want Philly to win.
Yeah.
I'll just be straight up with you.
Yep. For sure. Okay, let's get into stats. So first, team stats. The Phillies offense, or the Phillies like leader in WAR this year. I guess their god of war was JT Realmuto. I think that's awesome.
It's way
It
awesome.
is 6.5 WAR, and to me, like one of the things about WAR is it says that a guy was available because it's kind of a compiled stat throughout the entire season, right? Like
Yeah.
Bryce Harper played well this season, but he only played 99 games.
Right. Yeah.
So his WAR was like 2.5, I think. was around
It was
2.5.
lower than you'd think for sure.
Yeah, so WAR is compiled based on availability and performance. JT Realmuto, the catcher, they call him QB1, was available. He was there, led the team in WAR. Fantastic. Best
Well, and
catcher in
let's
the
be
game.
honest, he's the best catcher in baseball right now.
Yes, absolutely. Hands down.
And not just because his team has gone this far. I mean, I think he's been the best catch, like if not the one of the best catchers for a while.
I'd put him for the last 4 or 5 years, probably. I'd put him top 3 for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that might be conservative.
Top
but
5 easy, but
yeah. Yep. So the Phillies team OPS is .739. Again, OPS is on base plus slugging, so it's your on base percentage plus your slugging percentage. .739. That's good enough for 8th in Major League Baseball. Team home runs 205. I think Jewel and I had a pie in the face riding on home runs. I can't remember if it was 200 or 220. I'll have to go back and check my records. I have a spreadsheet with our bets on it. With our 5-base bets. I need to go find it and check that. But 205 was good enough for 6th in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
The Beefy Boys can hit.
No doubt.
They don't strike out a whole lot. They're 18th in Major League Baseball. That means that they had the 18th most, so they were, I guess, top 15. I guess that would put them 12th as far as the lowest go.
Right.
Their average with walks, 16th in Major League Baseball. Stolen bases. This is a big number for me, Brig. This is a big one because we all know stolen bases and small ball are going to make the difference in the World Series. 105 stolen bases. That's 5th in all of Major League Baseball. One of 8 teams with more than 100 stolen bases.
Yep.
That is going to be a difference maker.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it is. And what's interesting is that this postseason, we've seen pretty conservative base running from Philadelphia. So
we have, yeah.
With what they're capable of and what they've shown us over the last 10 games, pretty fascinating.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is truly fascinating. It'll be interesting to see the approach that they take. But the problem is, like, we'll get to Houston in a little bit. They've got to get on base first before they can start being really aggressive and stealing bases.
Yeah.
So
that
exactly. Could be an issue. Pitching and defense. You want to take us through pitching and defense here, Brig?
Yeah, absolutely. So Philadelphia has allowed per game 4.23 runs that's allowed per game. That puts them 15th in MLB, right smack dab in the middle. Their fielding percentage is .988, though, and that's tied for second across all of Major League Baseball. So when they get an opportunity to record an out, they do it. That's what that means.
They were tied with like 4 teams. I know the Mariners were there with them, and then there were 2 more. I've drawn a blank. I can't remember. The team that led had like .989, I think is what it was.
Oh, it was like another, yeah.
A single point separated them and the leaders. So
that's fascinating.
Very small margins.
Well, it's backed up by their number of errors committed. They're tied for the 3rd fewest in Major League Baseball with 69 total. That's across the whole season. I think Isaiah Kiner-Falefa had 69 himself this season.
I think JP Crawford committed 69 in September.
Yeah, right. Just in September.
He had a rough stretch there for a little bit.
Exactly. So if you combine the team's defensive capabilities with the team's earned run average, earned run average is the pitcher's the number of runs the pitchers give up, and this is a cumulative team ERA, 3.97. So your hotshot starters like Justin Verlander are sub 2.0, and your hotshot or in your your closers are going to be in that 2.5 range. Mm-hmm. So having a team ERA of 3.97 is just great. It's not bad.
Yeah, and we'll get into in a little bit kind of the weakness, why it is as high as it is at 3.97. Yeah,
because that is 17th in Major League Baseball, and there are elements and nuances to that, but it's still, because of the way it's broken down, it's still not a huge problem for Philadelphia. Obviously, we've seen that, but they also strike out a lot of people, and they're 10th in Major League Baseball with strikeouts. So they've allowed 150 home runs this season. That's 5th best in Major League Baseball. That's 5th lowest. And walks allowed, the number of times they've walked guys, is the 11th best in Major League Baseball. So kind of middle of the road on some of these, but some of those standout numbers like home runs allowed, that's going to be a really interesting statistic when we get into Houston's capabilities at the plate, because the Houston, they hit bombs. That's what they do. That's all they know how to do.
Right, and it's like I talked about with the Mariners. If they can keep them in the yard, they'll be fine. The problem was they couldn't keep them in the yard when it was timely. They did a pretty good job for the most part, but when it came late and they kind of closed the gap a little bit, they couldn't do it. So the difference is going to be if the Phillies can do that in late innings, keep the Astros from hitting home runs. So real quick, I looked it up, and it was the Cardinals who had the best fielding percentage in the league at .989.
Awesome.
So
Brad, what are the Phillies' weaknesses?
Strength. Well, so let's start with their strengths. Starting pitching actually is like it. They're third in Major League Baseball with an 8.2 collective WAR among starting pitchers. But what we saw was with relief pitching, they had a collective WAR of -0.3. So that's -0.3, and that's why that ERA is as high as it is. Yeah. That if the bullpen had like a 0 WAR, even if they weren't negative, that number would be probably a little bit lower. Like they might be, it might be around the 3.6 range potentially. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but that could be the case. So starting pitching is a strength. Relief pitching is a weakness for sure. They're 12th in Major League Baseball, but catching, they do have, like this year they had the best catcher in baseball. JT Realmuto was the best catcher in baseball. And as a position, they had the highest WAR in the league at 4.8. So backup catcher brought him down quite a bit, but nonetheless.
Quite a bit. Yeah. Because JT's effective at the plate and he's terrific defensively.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. He's going to save runs. He's going to get to strikes with framing too. So that's a big deal.
He is. Yeah.
Other weaknesses with the Phillies, though, is the shortstop position. I'm not going to blame a no-name player, right? Bryson Stott, I'm not going to call him a no-name player, but he's not as well known as guys like Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Harper, Gene Segura, JT Realmuto. He's not as well known as those guys. I think there's a reason for that. But the shortstop position, and I'm not blaming it all on him, but the shortstop position had -1.2 WAR. That's 25th in Major League Baseball. Yeah. Third base, Alec Boehm is primarily the third baseman there. I don't think he had a -1 WAR, but there as a position at third base, they had, are you looking that up for me, Brig?
Yeah.
Okay. They had a -1 WAR. It's 22nd in Major League Baseball. And I don't think that was all him. I think there was some collective negativity there, but anyway,
collective negativity.
But the outfield, thank you. But the outfield was also bad with a -3 WAR in the outfield. That's all three positions, across all three positions, a -3.0 WAR. It's 21st in Major League Baseball. Holy smokes, that worries me, to be honest with you, because a team that can hit the ball in the gap like the Astros periodically, right?
Yeah.
Like they have the power to send the ball to the fence. We know that. And if it's getting out there, there's probably going to be somewhat of a defensive liability out there, at least in one of those positions. I think the addition of Brandon Marsh has helped, right? Like that dude can flat out fly. Like it's like they say with Julio Rodriguez, it's a no-fly zone out there.
Right.
So he is helping a ton. Nick Castellanos has been good defensively during the playoffs.
Yeah. Right? I agree.
So I think he stepped up big time defensively, especially. I think that he's part of that -3 WAR. He's going to be factored in there. And I think that there's a reason why they made the move for Brandon Marsh as well. Because I think there's like,
don't forget Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's primarily DHing it though, isn't he? He's not spending a lot
Bryce
of time.
Harper is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's
so
right.
It's all Kyle Schwarber in left field right now.
That's right.
Yeah, he's played 155 games in left field, I think.
Wow.
Something like that. Like a ton. I know he's played 155 games this season, but I think most of them have been in left field.
Most of them, yeah. Certainly since Harper had his elbow issue, he's been in left field. Yeah.
But his and Schwarber's plate appearances as of late have been a little shaky. He's kind of streaky.
I think all of them were a little shaky there toward the end of the season.
Yeah. You're
Everybody.
right.
So there's that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, like you talked about with Realmuto with the catching position, that there were some obvious issues with the outfield being able to hit.
Yeah.
That I think Jason said that it felt like Nick Castellanos coming up in the NLCS was like an automatic out. And that's frustrating.
That's not good.
Yeah.
So I got your
the rally
shortstop
killer.
list.
Go ahead.
Your shortstop list. So obviously Bryson Stott is involved in this problem. Sir Didi Gregorius.
Oh, that's a big one.
And Camargo, Johan Camargo.
Mm.
Those are your three shortstops throughout the season.
There you go. Probably because didn't Didi Gregorius, didn't he get released?
He had a negative 0.4 WAR by himself this season. And wow. I think he was DFA'd.
I'm pretty sure he was DFA'd.
60 or so games in.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway,
so those are some of the strengths and the weaknesses of the Phillies. I mean, the big storyline of the Phillies is the fact that Bryce Harper and Gene Segura are finally getting to play in a World Series. Gene Segura just finally getting to play in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the article about him wearing his uniform onto the plane?
No.
Yeah, he wore his uniform onto the plane, and then I saw somebody on Twitter was like, there was a picture of somebody who, it was either Bryce Harper or somebody who looks exactly like Bryce Harper, dressed up like him in his grays with his red jersey, getting gas at the gas station. And it was like, yeah, it had to have been somebody who looked like him and was dressed up, because I don't think that's allowed. but they said something like how the rest of the Phillies are gonna be after they take 2 games in Houston, because Gene Segura was wearing his uniform on the plane. It's just gonna be leisure wear for everybody.
Oh, that's terrible.
I thought it was pretty good.
It's pretty funny. I disagree. I'm just kidding. Just anyway, to be contrarian for a minute.
So that's the big thing with the Phillies. Like all of it, top to bottom, how they got here, what you can expect from them going forward. I just have to say that I'm ecstatic for Bryce Harper finally getting to play in the World Series, and I might be for Mike Trout if the Angels ever make it, just because he deserves it. The rest of the team doesn't necessarily, and I say that as a division rival.
Yeah,
is all. Not necessarily anything against the Angels, just as a division rival. But when he gets there, I'll be happy for Mike Trout if he gets there.
I agree with you,
because
I especially agree with the if part.
Well, because Ken Griffey Jr. never played in a World Series, Frank Thomas never played in a World Series, and those are two of the greats. Like when we were growing up, they were like, I mean, Griffey's obviously a generational talent, still one of the greatest to ever play the game. But I remember Frank Thomas was my best friend's favorite player.
Dude, was amazing. The Big Hurt, and it was fabulous.
Yeah, he was one of the top 5 to 10 players in the 90s.
Consistently,
yeah. But he never made it to a World Series, so it's, at least not with the White Sox. I'd have to look farther back or deeper into the end of his career. But anyway, some of the greats don't ever make it, and I'm glad that Bryce Harper did, because it'll be one more thing on his Hall of Fame resume.
And it is going that direction for sure.